episode of Beyond the Present podcast. I'm Daniel Mulligan, and today we're talking about the importance of being action-oriented. You see, guys, a lot of guys out there might think like, well, Dan, you're all into strategizing and planning. You're definitely right. I love planning. I plan everything all the time. But here's the fun fact. It doesn't matter how well you plan. If you're not action-oriented, all that planning means nothing. Because most of your ideas, most of your plans, and most of your perspective about the future simply do not materialize once you test them. That's right. Most plans fail immediately after your first attempt, which is why you have to keep planning and changing your plan. And that is only possible if you are action-oriented. You see, you cannot achieve your goals if you're just into planning. You got to train your mind to take action, get the feedback, and that's exactly why today I'm going to help you do just that. So, why is it so important to be action-oriented? Because unfortunately, all of us humans have this tendency to start thinking about whether or not we should invest our time, energy, and resources in the pursuit of any goal. And that's normal because we all know that we have limited resources. We only have 24 hours a day. We only have so much energy. We only have so much time. And because of that, when we think about a certain goal, we ask ourselves, is it really worth my time, my money, my attention? I don't know. Do I have to bother with this? And because of that, and because of the fact that we humans have a tendency to conserve energy and resources to prolong our survival, that's one of our survival strategies. It's been, like this for millennia. We somehow like to ask ourselves, all right, so should I get started? Maybe I should do a bit of due diligence first. Maybe I should ask a few more questions. I'll think about it. You know what? Not today. Let me just, let me just sleep over it. I'm going to think about that and I'll let you know later, right? So for us, we have realized that postponing taking action is a strategy that can help us conserve energy. And sometimes it might save us from that pain of failure and loss. Because, we've tried sometimes certain things. We put a lot of time and energy into the pursuit of a certain, perhaps, project goal. And then we realize, it didn't work out. So we just gave up hope. And then we learned that lesson. It's like, oh man, it's so painful. When you pursue a goal, when you do your best to do something and you can't achieve it, after a while, you might feel disappointed. And you know what? It hurts to feel disappointed. And I think that's the reason why a lot of us, we have this mechanism that wants to protect us from that pain of failure and disappointment and putting time and energy and effort and resources into something and then not getting anything in return. That's just so scary for a lot of us, which is why we stop taking action, which is why we get into our head and we start getting over, analytical. So we like, is this really good? Should I do it? I'm not sure. Let me ask some of my friends. Now, by all means, if you are somebody who likes to think before you leap, believe me, that's actually a good thing. I'm not promoting you to do crazy stuff here. But sometimes people move on, not just to, too much of overthinking, but they somehow find themselves in a situation where they are experiencing paralysis by analysis. It means they analyze and overanalyze to the point where just feel like, maybe it's not worth it after all. And in most cases, when you overthink, that's exactly what happens. I mean, think of your life right now. How many times you thought so long and so much about doing something and you actually did it? Just be honest with yourself. Think about all the situations in your life where you really wanted to do something. That is, you want to take some kind of action, whether it was to meet someone, to go somewhere, to do something. It was an active process. You wanted to do something and then you thought a lot about it, like, should I do it or not? And you thought over and over, sometimes for a long period. How many times did you actually do that thing in the end? That's the thing. You see, when you overthink about anything, you drastically reduce the odds of actually taking action and getting that thing done, which is exactly why today I want to encourage you to become action-oriented. Understand this. It is necessary and vital to think, to plan, to prepare in advance. These are all important tools that will help you make fewer mistakes, that makes the process of attaining your goals more efficient. But the problem is this. If you want to overthink, that's exactly what happens when you just feel like, you know what, let's just skip the whole thing altogether. So in order for your plans to materialize, they have to be tested. And know that most of your plans will be changed again and again and again throughout the process. It's totally fine. You're not supposed to plan something and then stick to that plan all the way to the end. I mean, it happens sometimes, but it's very rare. In most cases, achieving your goals is kind of like, flying from Houston to New York. So when that, plane takes off, that, pilot is adjusting the direction and the angles every millisecond. So it's going a little bit forward and then it's going to turn a little bit right. It's going to go a little bit left. Now let's increase the altitude. Oh, there's a bit of, turbulence. Let's go down. So that plane is constantly adjusting and readjusting every step of the way. So the only things that are constant in that trip are, the destination and the place of departure, and that's it. The rest gets changed all the time. And every flight is technically a unique flight because of that. The same thing applies to our lives in that when you're trying to achieve any goal, the only constant is your goal and the final end. But the plan has to be constantly changed, adjusted, readjusted, and so on in order for you not to be trapped into that loop of like, oh my gosh, I'm not getting anywhere. They say insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and hoping different results will come out of it. And that's exactly why your plans have to be constantly scrutinized and challenged by reality. And guess how you do that? It's very simple. You do that by trying your very best to stay focused on the goal, but flexible regarding the way you get there. And how do you do that? You take action to get the feedback. You cannot understand if something is good for you or not unless you start taking action. Unless you have a certain plan for a certain pursuit or goal or whatever it is. And you feel like, I think if I do it this way, it's probably going to be successful. But guess what? That's just thinking. Those are just mere thoughts and ideas. And how many times did you think something's going to work out and you tried and it didn't work out? I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, right? So you cannot verify the authenticity of your plan, your idea, or your solution unless it's tested in reality so you can get the feedback. And how do you get that feedback? That's right, action. So as much as I like people who think and plan, please understand that thinking and planning by itself is absolutely useless. That's right. Absolutely useless. You cannot attain your goals long term if all you're doing is thinking and planning. You just can't get anywhere. In order for those plans to be materialized, in order for those thoughts to turn into reality, you've got to take action. And that is why you have to be okay, and that's a very important part. You got to be very okay with putting that thought, energy, and resource in the pursuit of your goal and see it not lead to anything other than a feedback. That's right. So why do we stop taking action? Because we're afraid of, oh my gosh, if I pursue this thing and I take this action, which I'm not sure about, I could end up losing that time, energy, resource that I put into the project. So that's scary. I'm not sure. Should I do it? So the mindset here says, when I do something, I must get a reward for that action. That's like a normal human behavior. If you do something and you get rewarded, you want to do it more. If you do something and you get punished, you don't want to do it as much. So it's the same thing with human mind. You want to do it less if you feel that, you might not get the results. We humans want to invest our time, energy, emotions, and so on into something that gives us something in return. And it's very rational. But the problem is this. The correct mindset is when you focus your attention and mind not necessarily on obtaining certain specific results, but to focus on the feedback. You see, the most successful people in the world are focused on getting feedback. They have this growth mindset. They're trying to get a feedback. And understand this, no matter what you do, you will always get a feedback. And that's the main purpose of taking action. Because in order to get what you want, you have to do the right thing. But you won't understand if something is the right thing to do unless you get a feedback that tells you whether it is or not. And if feedback is exactly your guide that verifies or simply, denies your plan of action. That feedback says, you know what you were planning actually isn't that good. And now you have a feedback and you say, you know what, I'm going to change my plans from now on. I'm going to do something else and I'll try again. So without that feedback, there is no point in taking action. Without that feedback, there is no point in, planning or hoping for the future. None of that stuff is ever going to help you in that regards, which is exactly why today you need to start thinking as someone who wants to get the feedback. Your focus is not on the results that you want per se, but rather on the feedback of the action that you get, so you can analyze that feedback and say, you know what? It actually did work, but not exactly how I expected it. So let's make a bit of a tweak and a change, and maybe it'll work out just fine. And because of that, you need to understand the importance of doing it. You have to understand that, if I want to get something done, I need to take action now, get the feedback, and it's not supposed to work the way I wanted it every single time. But I will get a feedback, and once I have a feedback, I can then use that to plan the course ahead. And that is the right mindset. Action-oriented people are obsessed with this. Their main focus is on trying to get as much feedback as they can in their time, with their time and resources, in order to, plan the course ahead. And that's why they're so busy all the time taking action, because they want the feedback, because that feedback is the ultimate means of determining whether their plans are correct or not. So if you're an overthinker, if you're so much into planning things but never taking action, and you're always procrastinating, just tell yourself the reason I'm doing so is because I'm obsessed with getting the results instead of being obsessed with getting the feedback. Once you are focused on the feedback, you will naturally have the inclination to simply try to take more action, to go for it and get the results eventually by adapting with the course and then adjusting your path ahead. That's exactly what you got to do. So from now on, tell yourself, no matter what happens, I want to get a feedback. I'm not necessarily concerned with getting that result right away, but I will get a feedback, and that I will analyze that feedback. That's your target from now on. Once you think this way, it becomes a lot easier to take action. All right, guys, that's all the time we had for it. I'm Daniel Morgan, and this is Beyond the Present Podcast. Have a good one.